All right. I'm going to do a reading that I've been skeptical about doing for a while. So I have this idea about a black hole, right? And there's this exercise that my child's school did with all the children, all of them. And they had them think about the number or the amount of work, of people, of energy that goes into creating one thing, a roll of tape, right? So, what goes into making this roll of tape? Well, first you have to go to an agricultural area that grows rubber trees. Then you've got to get that rubber simmered down into a plastic at whatever facility. And there's people, there's like a ton of people working at both of those facilities. So many hands touched that rubber tree. So many hands made that plastic. So many hands made the tape, the actual roll itself, the container. What I'm saying is that every single item that you might have in your house at any given moment, right? Whatever it is, the point of consumerism or the impact of consumerism is really about that assembly line. So when we assemble our children in a room and we explain to them how many people it took to manufacture this one roll of tape, and we can successfully say over 50 people, because then from the plastic factory it had to be sent off to the factory that specifically makes tape, the Scotch tape factory. So that's now 3 factories, right? The Scotch tape people make the tape, the container, and all of that, but then it maybe needs to go to another facility where it's all put together. These pieces come apart. Well, I'm not going to pull it apart, but I'm going to show you. These pieces come apart from each other. So somebody else might have had to put all of them together. Then they get sent to a supply, like a wholesale supply warehouse. Then there's a Uline magazine that has to order. They have a deficiency of tape, so they've got to have a demand that then orders these from the wholesale store, right? That wholesale store then puts it into, I don't know, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, any place, any Target, any place that you could buy, Walmart, Scotch tape. Then it's distributed from the store to the customer. Then the customer takes it to the school. Do you understand how many people are involved with transporting and for this product to hit your hand? There's potentially an assembly line of way more than 50 people. Way more. So I just had to stress that point really quickly because what I want you to think about is every single item you have looked at, that you've interacted with, as in touched, moved, used, all the people that you may have interacted with, the clerk at the store when you purchased the tape. That's a lot of people for one little roll of tape to exist in your environment. I want to talk about pregnancy because when we're thinking about this glint in our father's eye, right? There's this understanding that from that point of conception, the idea of conceiving, just like, in certain books it says, if you even think about fornicating, you've already it's just as good as you having done it, right? So from the idea to the inception or to the actual conception point of a child, all the way through utero, as a zygote, as a fetus, however you want to put it, all of these stages and steps, think of every single person that your mother and your father interacted with, every single thing, all the food your mother ate, all the pieces of metal and cloth that they exchanged for that food with, money. The people that they worked with. They may have tape on their desk at work and may have tape at home. You understand what I'm saying? It's not about the tape. It's about understanding how many different aspects of life actually go into creating a new life. How many experiences? Was your mother on bed rest? Did she have a really low risk or a really high risk pregnancy? Was it, you know what I'm saying? Like, did she have a craving for Chinese food or Mexican food or a hamburger? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's, it's like it's an investigation into the human soul, is figuring out that moment of life. Is it when the heart starts beating? Is it when the lungs start breathing? Because you can't technically oxygenate anything, no matter how strong your heart is, if you don't have lungs. It's is it your brain function? Is it the first time that you move, that you convert kinetic energy of thought into movement in utero? Is that when we're human? What is the definition of a human? It is just as ridiculous, in my personal mind, as asking what is the definition of a man or what is the definition of a woman. Life is life. It's astounding to me that people don't understand that minerals are rocks that you consume, and that your cellular structure integrates into your cellular structure. You literally are what you eat. It doesn't mean it has to define you, but those are the building blocks of supplemental nutrients that you are handing your body to work with. It can either take those and use them or reject it completely. Right? So that's the same idea of light. Sometimes when you look out into the universe, light is traveling towards you. Red shift, blue shift. Yeah, I'm not saying fish. I'm saying shift, as in shifting a car or a shift at work. Okay. Then there's also black holes that suck all the life or the light. I don't mean to say life, but yeah, since life really does need light to exist, definitely uses that. There's some life forms that don't need light to exist, which worms could prove to you. Similar with wormholes through the universe. We don't know what kind of light is on the other side of a black hole. It could just be a wormhole. We wouldn't know because we've never been there. To have the imagination to imagine every item your mother touched for the entire duration. Sorry, there's a feather. Like during her entire pregnancy, it's just overwhelming. That's the level of, what if for every single universe that's out there, that's every person that she spoke to, every individual involved in making the earbud that she listened to for 5 minutes. Maybe she put the headphones on her stomach and you listen to music when you're in utero. You just don't know. What did that composer, how much energy went into that composer creating that piece? That's then being transmitted to your child. It's all of these things, but the point of it is to say people are always complaining about what they don't know. Like what was God thinking when the dinosaurs were around? We don't know. It's not written in the Bible. It's not written in the Quran. It's not written in any of the books. These are questions that are left that way because maybe everyone has a different answer. I know that's not the answer that anyone wants to hear, but it's no different from saying, well, maybe you're going to heaven and I'm going to hell. Maybe we're going different places. Maybe our reality, the experience of life, and therefore the experience of the afterlife will be vastly different for the both of us because of whatever factor that may be. Either what happened prerequisite to life, during life, or directly after we pass away. If all of those things are connected, this is freedom coming right out, then the freedom to think open-mindedly is an individual venture, which is why I'm saying individuals are not the same. And the moment that we try to become the same is really a problem. That's an issue. Being different is an attribute. It gives us way more permutations of experiences that we could be choosing. Here's cooperation, number 39. It did come out in the reverse, but it's because I'm talking about permutations. So many different choices. And no, they're not all going to coexist with one another. That's just not a reality. As much as we would all like to say, oh, let's find a cooperative way to do this, that is not the nature. It's not even the nature of the human body. Everything that you eat is processed by the human body, but some of it is rejected, which is your feces. It's your waste, it's your vomit, it's the snot, it's the earwax, the tears, the urine. Even a baby, eventually a woman's body is like, I can't carry this anymore. I cannot physically support this child any longer. And the child says, okay, I got this, and is rejected from the body relatively violently. That's what birth is. It is messy, painful, uncomfortable, and extremely awkward. It can be. It really can be. It really can. But this is also the cooperation. Yeah, no, we can't continue to coexist in my same body. By the time that you're, 1 year of age, you will rupture out of my body like we're in a Dreamcatcher movie. You know what I'm saying? There's coexistence, there is cooperation, but only up to a certain point in time. So that's what I'm saying is the duration of time, a blink of God's eye. Where is a Jurassic period? How long do we play on the concrete schoolyards? When do we stop trick-or-treating? How long do you believe in the tooth fairy? When did you find out Santa wasn't real? All of these are just as kind of far out ideas. None of them are right, none of them are wrong. It has everything to do with your personal experience. We have now circled back to divine guidance. So I think I'm going to switch decks. That kind of summed up what I was trying to say about the trajectory of kinetic energy, whether it be biological, whether it be physical, whether it be a mentality, whether there be a time frame put upon or projected upon a specific ideas, growth mindset. How long does it take to establish a friend? How long does it take to establish love? How long does it take to reinvent the wheel? Reinvent fire. These are alchemical processes that do have something to do with your vital energy, your life force energy. I just shuffled these, and I swear that I should have showed you the deck before I started going, but this is coming to life. This is number 29, and this is number 24. So here, there's a coming to life. I don't know why I'm seeing this elephant as being real stuck in the mud. Real entrenched. That's weird. This is all, I'm just channeling, so please bear with me if my verbiage is strange. But it's like there's that that black hole energy like to consume those gentle, soft spirited, more they always say God takes his favorite angels first, which is no comfort to those who have lost somebody. So my condolences. But this is the understanding that even for the animal kingdom, this idea of being light either coming towards you or being sucked away from you is a real thing. And I do want to say, like, the number 24, there's something about that today for me. It's like the Eve. It's the All Hallows Eve. It's New Year's Eve. It's Christmas Eve. It's the solstice. It's the equinox. It's the light and the dark weighing out for themselves and for us, honestly. Look, that the balancing act just came out. It's the light and the dark. So having light shown on something that's really been in the dark, and having something that's really light emerging from a dark space like a black hole. It's the juxtaposition of both. It's the paradox. If you've never seen the Cloverfield paradox, you should go watch it. It's really interesting. But they do jump. There's a warp speed jump that they make, and some of the crew members are actually incorporated directly into the wall of the ship. It's like their arm is now part of the ship. That's kind of the same idea of what I'm trying to say, is that the attachments, the interactions, the influences, the vibrational energetic imprints are left over. I'm also yeah, there's something about that being really unsettling, to have to think of every single thing, every single piece of clothing, every single new venue. Maybe you started going to like Lamaze class or something. It's like every new experience, every old experience, the people that showed up for the baby shower and the ones that don't. All of these, yes, that's what I'm saying, this is rock bottom in reverse. If you can see that reflection, instead of the balancing act being between, do I go this way or do I go that way, there's now a time frame set aside. It's a tunnel vision time frame that is being like honed in on. And the reason that we would hone in on that is to figure out what happened during this gap. It's Pulp Fiction. It's catching ourselves up to what took place during this time frame that was, for some reason, specialized. So, gestating a baby, that's a pretty specific and special gap. There's the baby gap, all the clothes that come from the baby gap that end up at the baby shower. That's a gap between consumer and demand, right? Or supply, whatever. Rock bottom is really different from coming out of rock bottom, from being able to emerge. We had the elephant that was getting sucked in, whereas there was this light being shown on the number 11, or this 1111. It's 1111 today, so that number 11 coming out to show light on things, very helpful. This is light from, if you notice, this whole card is a grassy knoll, kind of, or a meadow or whatever. But this is kind of like an hourglass. When you turn an hourglass over, the sand falls the other way instead. So this is a matter of being able to think of life as being the sands of time. And I hate to be all young and restless about it, but literally that is. You don't need to hit rock bottom when you can reconceptualize time as being something that is measured by kinetic input of energy. Did the tree fall in the forest? Yes, it did. And not only did it fall, it was turned into a card and a book and a box that we are now reading. Does that make sense? Like, for all of these events to align, for human beings to be sitting here having this conversation, there is a book called Socrates in the City. I highly recommend it if you've never really had the answers or any kind of deep conversation about origins of God. Socrates in the City is actually a transcript of a whole bunch of a series of lectures that were given by a series of different people. This specific passage that I'm speaking about was by Sir John Isaac Newton. And he talks about the fact that for a human to even exist, that if the universe had been, less, I don't even know what the specific temperature change is at this point because it's been so long since I've read it. But it's something so minute as like 7 degrees hotter or 7 degrees colder, and human life would never have existed in the first place. Think about that. 7 degrees. If at any point in our history, through the Jurassic, Neanderthal, Homo sapien, whatever terraform we are existing upon on this little third rock from the sun, if it had been 7 degrees hotter or colder at any given point in time, then perhaps human life would not have had the recipe, the ice ages, the volcanoes, the kind of in between comfortable, 80, 86 degrees Fahrenheit that we are comfortable at typically. Yeah, I think that's, I don't remember if that's basal temperature. Sorry, I don't think it's like 86 or 87 is pretty normal temperature. 98, all the way in between those two. Anything above like 101 is kind of concerning. So anyway, yeah, here's number 12. So that was the progression from 11 to 12. This is literally the unwinding of the Fibonacci furl. Furl. It's like a fern that's unfurling its arms, its branches, its leaves. Right? This is slow and steady. There are some things that you just can't rush. If you put a chicken in your stove right now and you turn your stove to 100 degrees, it's going to take a hell of a lot longer to bake than if you turn it up to 300 or 350, maybe even 400. There's a time frame associated with specific activities. So one of the things I don't think that we understand that well as humans is taking into consideration the placebos, the control groups. I'm using this as an example today, obviously. I could switch items if it's confusing to any of you. We'll just look at a penny. There's a control group. Then there's the actual, participants in the experiment or whatever test you're running. And then there's another group, right? And they may not take anything at all. They're just there for observational purposes because you need a baseline. So did you hear the Uline magazine being the baseline, the placebo being the assembly of all the parts, the control group being the rubber tree itself? This is still a progression of scientific thought. It's still the understanding that Newton had, that when an apple falls, gravity will catch it and pull it downwards, similarly to any other object that is dropped. So how did humans get here? Probably is best met by the answer to how did water get here? But then when we think about all the blinks of an eye that have passed since water arrived, and amoebas evolved, and amphibians, and omnivores, it's basically all evolutionary. So that same, let's just say that light could be, you don't actually need to see the light from the sun to feel its heat, the temperature of its heat on your skin. Could be completely blind and you could still feel that. So let's say perhaps the heat that your dad felt towards your mother, that's what caused that little twinkle in his eye. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Same tune as A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if I got to spell it out for you, I'm leaving it right there. This is Stormfield's. Please go watch the Cloverfield Paradox if you have not seen it. This is both of those roads. Remember we had I think it was a rock bottom card, but the roads, you had to choose which road to go on. Is it up, down? Doesn't always have to be that black and white. Maybe it's left and right. Excuse me, I was holding it upside down. Stormfields has both of those roads, one there and one there. We can make the assumption that it's meandering back and forth and that they connect somewhere around this hill, somewhere around this little foothill. I don't know what you call that. Anyway, we could make that assumption, but we could also just make the assumption that if you're in the eye of the storm, it's not going to be nearly as turbulent in the skies, right? So, like, if I'm in an airplane and I'm flying through the air and I hit turbulence because of a tornado, it's going to be a lot less enjoyable for me than if I was on the ground, firmly grounded, firmly rooted in the ground, possibly in the basement or in the bathroom, sitting inside of the tub as a fallout shelter from the eye of the storm will hit the house and then there will be silence all of a sudden. Then coming out the other side, you may go through it again. But there's a distinct slow and steady. Really hard to keep an airplane in the air slow and steady when you're going through storms. When the elephant is being sucked into the mud, trying frantically to survive. I think that's basically the only thing I do have to say. Gestational period for an elephant to be pregnant, completely different than like a rabbit. So the gravity that affects an elephant on this same planet may affect their offspring differently than if they lived on the moon, for example. Just an observation, but yeah, that's all I can really say about that. This is number 13 in reverse. just solitude. This is I don't even know what to call that. This is just letting you know that as above, so below. If you can see that reflection in the water. If you're in a boat and you're going through a hurricane, which is equivalent to a tornado on land, right? It's still got that black hole kind of epicenter. So sitting in that epicenter is extremely difficult unless you can see that from both sides. And in this specific case, I'm talking about before and after death. And this is your life. It can be lived in solitude. You don't have to, have your first kiss or get married or have a baby ever. You don't have to. However, the grand scheme of life, the dash between your birth and death date, is 100% defined by our interactions with the nouns, the adjectives, and the verbs that populate our lives. So anyway, it's already 30 minutes. I'm just going to pull one last one and let it be. This is number 2, the gentle gardener. So I am just seeing like all these eggs in the field are hatching. There's 3 different eggs in this field. I do just want to say I did just specify that if you were in the air, this is like an airplane, this is a boat on the ocean, and this is a house on land. That storm field that we were just looking at is probably a hell of a lot easier to deal with when you don't even really have to consider that type of violence. When you're naturally gentle, that is what's going to attract. It's a magnetism. The universe has way more dark energy floating around in it than light showing through it. Yeah, perhaps the light that goes through a black hole comes out again elsewhere, but it's not a gentle process. It's the collapsing of a photon or the passing of a photon of light through a portal that we can no longer envision. We can no longer see it or view it for ourselves. So it's scary to us or to some people. These eggs have already hatched on this planet. There's 3 of them. We're the third rock from the sun, right? This right here, this entity floating around in the clouds, you know that dude, is not literally a person, but think about on the other side. If energy cannot be created nor destroyed, where did these 3 come from? Winks? Twinkles? Fairies? Gods? Aliens? These are the questions that people want to know so badly, and I don't have the answers. I just have postulations that I mostly keep to myself because I know that they're not popular. I don't really care if they're popular, so I also don't mind keeping them to myself. However, every once in a while, like today, I do feel like there's a divine purpose in, I guess, peeling back the layers, peeling back the cover. What is this? Truth. Truth. There's value in truth. If you start with the truth from, the glistening, sparkly eyes all the way through your life as a general source of electricity, you will rise again and again and again and again, but not necessarily in that order. Over and over. And for me, that's the really exciting part, is being able to start over and over. That when anyone puts you down, you can rise back up again. That it's a never-ending story that you wrote. It's a beautiful, never-ending story, but it is a composition. So sweet. This is love coming right out. I do want to say that life is a labor of love. Life is a labor of love. So giving birth to it, to its dimensional reality in any way, shape, or form, is automatically self-worth. This is the unfurling of those. I do want to say this is Fern Gully regrowing itself after having been burnt to a crispy ash. If you've never seen that movie Fern Gully, you should go watch that too. Anyway, 15 plus 1 is 16. Your self-worth should reside within how much love you can give and how much love you can receive. Not how much of either you can garnish or hoard or control. It is not a competition. If there was ever going to be a technology in place that could look at our intentional acts of love, intentional acts of caring, intentional acts of consideration, sympathy, empathy, compassion. I think I've said all these things already. That would be a great place for us to start remeasuring our currency, because our frequency is already existing upon a very physical, elementally metallic, material fabric that we're all hanging in reality. We're kind of, all trying to find the one piece of clothing that we love. We're all trying to find that one thing that we can grasp. We could really put our hands on it and, like, hold on. This is not tangible. Neither is pain. Pain is tangible, actually. I'll take that back. You could definitely whack somebody with like a stick or a stone, and it can hurt considerably. I'm talking about non-tangible ideas like terror, fear, love, compassion. These are non-tangible things. Cannot grab them, touch them, hold on to them without significant manipulations. So I guess that's my point. I'll end it here. Love is always the best place to end.